You basically talked about how Minnesota is trading or attempting to trade up to number 3 overall to draft, I believe, Drake May in there. Now, I wasn't able to read the entire thing. Ty did. I just kind of got a transcription through the wonderful brain that is his, but that's big news, it feels like. So Minnesota's the team that is most actively trying to move up because we've heard about the Giants. We've heard about a couple other teams. It's Minnesota trying to go get a quarterback, and if it's Drake May, that makes sense because they got Sam Darnold for the year. Is that what you're hearing, or how do we get to this information, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, here's where we're at, essentially. New England's going to listen to teams that call. The two teams, in my mind, that I've been able to ascertain that have been the most active calling up to number 3 have been the Minnesota Vikings, number 1, and I think second, if we're going to quantify it, is the New York Giants. Those are the two teams that have expressed an interest in moving up to number 3. Now, whether they can get up to number 3 is a whole other issue. Whether New England is willing to go back is a whole other issue. It's going to take a lot. And so I don't know ultimately that New England is going to move off that pick. New England may just stay right where it is. And so if you're the Vikings, and I also think, by the way, yes, I said Drake May, but I also think that in a perfect world, the Vikings would have a high degree of interest, as would other teams, in Jaden Daniels. But I still think, as we talked about, that Jaden Daniels is the favorite to be number 2. So if Daniels goes number two, obviously he's not going 3. If he goes to 3, the price of 3 goes up a lot if the Commanders decide not to take that pick. But I think the Commanders, in the end, will opt for Daniels. That's my read on it.
Commanders.
And if they do, then I think we got the Vikings, who have expressed the most interest in coming up to number 3. The Giants have expressed some as well. And the Patriots very likely are possible to just sit where they're at and pick from number 3.
I think the last time we chatted with you, you said there's a lot of maneuvering with that number 2 overall pick. There you said you think Daniels goes number 2. Then at the end you said you still think Commanders go with Daniels at 2. Is that a interesting situation? Is that kind of cemented itself? Or what do you
I think here's the thing. I think we saw the agent tweet about it last week, right? Not being particularly pleased that it was 4 quarterbacks in, that Jaden Daniels didn't have more face time with the Commanders. But the fact of the matter is this is the draft. This is not free agency. Jaden Daniels is going to go where he's drafted, and he's going to be happy about it. And if it is, in fact, Washington that drafts him, then I think Jaden Daniels is going to be perfectly content to go to Washington and be the face of the franchise and take over as the quarterback of the Commanders. And that's the way I continue to think it's trending to go. Now, the Commanders have not finalized that decision. Could they change their mind? Sure. Could something happen? Sure. Could a team make a last-minute offer? Sure. Anything's possible draft week and things happen. But if you're asking me the most likely scenario is that the Commanders stay at 2 and take Jaden Daniels in my mind.
Okay, cool. And then the Patriots most likely probably stay at 3 and take their quarterback.
Well, they're less likely to stay. They're going to listen. Well, how about this?
Yeah.
They're more likely to move the pick than the Commanders, but I still think the odds favor them staying where they are. How about that?
Okay, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we're at like 74% probably for the Patriots.
Okay.
78% probably.
Let's say 75% they stay where they are. I hate to put percentages on this because
No, but it is. It's just this is to paint a picture. This is to paint a picture. You'd have the Commanders
Exactly. I think the Commanders are likely to stay at 2 and pick their quarterback. I think the Patriots are a little less likely than the Commanders to stay at 3, but still more likely than not to make that pick at 3. And it's up to a team this week to change the Patriots' mind, which could happen.
Hey, it's not 100%.
No.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's
not
right.
100%. You know what I mean? It's still up in the air. There's a chance you could weasel in there and go, hey, I got a deal for you. Mm-hmm. And then maybe because you fall back, Penix is going to be available. Mm-hmm. So you can still get a great quarterback in Penix. How are we feeling about Penix? The heat about Penix? Because I think the boys mentioned how there's been a couple different reports about where Penix could be. Some people see him as maybe very early. Some people see him maybe drifting back. He was minus 130, I think, to be a first-round draft pick last week. That feels like a hammer. Dahn on that particular one from the way I view Michael Penix and how talented he is.
Obviously, leading up to this week, there is a lot of bullshit, but for a majority of the previous weeks, the NFL Network mock drafts had Jaden going 3, and the ESPN mock drafts had Jaden going 2. Is that strictly like a deal between NFL Network and ESPN? Like, hey, we have to be a little different, so we'll put him 2? Or why is that? Is there actual fodder about number 2 being up in the air, especially now with all this agent drama?
Yeah, I always just say, when you're doing these mock drafts, I try to do that with my ears and what I'm hearing, and then you rank the players as I see them and what I think there. As we, certain teams, you have more. There's more out there on. People around the league are talking, and I'm buying it. With that one, I was like, everything in my gut was kind of saying, this feels like Washington. Drake May, kind of bigger, more physical guy. It kind of fits them a little better. I had talked to people that. Had been discussing this with Dan Quinn and his buddies around the league, and they said he kept talking about, I need to find my Matt Ryan, and I went to Super Bowl with Matt Ryan. So that's why I was kind of hung up on, and I was sitting there going like, okay, well, that feels like Drake May. It would be kind of more that type of player. So that's why I've been thinking this whole process that Drake May, fits better with Washington. And then now as you're coming down the home stretch, it's like, okay, there's too much. Like it's at some point in time, it's like I can't inject my own personal opinion here. This is just overwhelming that that I talk to is saying that it's going to be Jaden. So that's why I have it there now.
Okay.
But it is a good idea. Staying on opposite sides as the other network, and look at all this conversation that we can drive for the month.
Oh yeah, we've been very grateful for all you mock drafters over the last few years, very much, because you guys get cooked, you get absolutely slaughtered, and then you get celebrated as well by some teams. All you got to do is just type into your column that team is getting somebody that their fans would like, and you're a hero. But do it on the flip side, and you're an absolute stooge. We've been doing the same exact thing, so we apologize and we appreciate it. Go ahead, AJ.
DJ, for some of these trades, when someone's coming from like middle to the end of the first round, they're trying to get up. When do they initiate these things? Are they talking now behind the scenes? What's happening? And I would assume some things happen on draft day, draft night, probably a lot quicker than we even know.
Yeah, I mean, usually what the phone calls are, you're making those really this week, like starting right now, all the way through till this thing starts. And basically the conversations are, all right, we have, there's one particular player we like, so we'll call these teams that are up in front of us. Hey, if this player, if we're not going to tell you who it is, but if our player's there, we'd be willing, we'd want to come up. And you can kind of discuss some of the parameters of kind of what you'd be looking for. And the team there would be like, well, if we get wiped out, if the four guys that we really like are all four of them are gone, then we'd be willing to move out. And you kind of put some framework of a deal in place so that when you make the call on the clock, it literally the first question is your guy there? You're sticking and picking. Our guy's here, we're good. Or it's like, we can do that deal we talked about. We got wiped out. You're the guy there. Yep. All right, then let's do the deal. But usually it's not the first time you've talked to these people, like when you're on the clock.
You sticking and picking or waiting and trading? What do you what do you got going on here? I love that the chatter between the GMs, because the more GMs we talk to, and we only knew a few, and then now we know like a handful, I would say.
Yeah.
And they like chat with us. There's a lot of conversation happening amongst GMs on like a very regular basis.